because it's not static. There is the opportunity, there is the possibility for you to change it, but you need the awareness first. And that's what I'm hoping you're getting today.
This is the Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
There are 4 main attachment styles that we develop and we can see in adults. 1 is secure. 2 is anxious. 3 is avoidant. And 4 is disorganized. Okay? And I'm going to go into each of those. And remember, this is a simplified version because there is such thing as anxious, avoidant, and various other aspects. So in this simplified version, understand that the quote unquote healthy way is secure attachment. Secure attachment happens when your parents raised you in a way where they were there for your needs and they had a healthy, they weren't like helicopter parents. They were there when you needed anything. They gave the right amount of encouragement and they took care of you. And as a result, you developed a secure attachment style where you had, as a child, what we see in babies is that when the parent goes, when the caretaker goes, there's some that's not nice. I don't like that. And then when the caretaker comes back, there's happiness, right? Like that's secure, that's normal. And as a result, we develop about 50% of the population has a secure attachment style, which means that you grow healthily attached to your romantic partners and aren't too devastated when those relationships don't work out or when that partner doesn't work out in the way that you thought. Okay, I think that's a pretty self-explanatory. About 50% of you have that. For those of you 50% who have it, congratulations. You become the like rock in a relationship. Generally, 2 secure people will have really great relationship dynamics. And a secure person can be with an anxious or avoidant or disorganized attachment style person because that security allows for a foundation within the relationship that's actually helpful. And as long as there's good communication can really work out. Where things can get more complex is when you have the anxious and avoidant, especially the anxious and avoidant pairing. That's like the quote unquote worst one. So let's go into anxious. Okay. The anxious attachment style, it comes from children whose caretakers basically were in what's the word? Sporadic with the needs. Like sometimes the needs were met, sometimes they weren't. There was this, I don't know if I'm going to get taken care of or not in any given moment. And so what happens is that these children grow up to become adults that have an anxious attachment style. And what that means is they make their partner their everything. These people fall in love deeply, very, very fast, or what they think is love, right? Deeply and very, very fast because this partner needs to be their everything. You'll see things like over communication. These are the people who, if they haven't heard back from their partner in like 30 minutes, are sending a follow-up text. These are the people who show up at their partner's work or school or whatever, just being like, hey, I just missed you, and just like showing up to continue to reinforce how important that person is in their life. And that anxiousness of making the partner the perfect partner. It's like, this person is absolutely perfect. This is exactly who I've been calling in. And as a result to that, there is an anxious attachment. And this is most commonly portrayed in mainstream media as being feminine. When you think about that, like the crazy girlfriend who just is all up in your business, that is the stereotypical feminine attachment style is anxious, okay? And they are often drawn to avoidance, the people who have an avoidant attachment style. So avoidant attachment style happens for children who their caretakers are just distant, like who are not really there to meet the needs of the child. And as a result of that, the child becomes essentially ambivalent to it. So the caretaker leaves and the child doesn't have, like, internally is having that reaction. But when the caretaker comes back is ambivalent, but there's like, yeah, whatever. And just like, so an example of what that looks like is the child will continue playing as if the caretaker didn't even come back, right? It's this avoidant, like, oh, I don't care. Think too cool for school, but like literally in children. And it's not because they don't care. It's because that they have so much wounding around not having their needs met that it's actually safer for them to push away. It's actually safer for them to be like, okay, fine, I don't need you, and put up that kind of wall. And so adults, when they grow up, they get this avoidant style. And the avoidant style is just that. It's a fear of intimacy. And when things get too close, a pushing away. Say of literally avoiding what could be a opportunity for the relationship to get even closer. And so this can look like, while the anxious style, right, is making their partner the perfect partner, saying this, I'll never meet anyone like this. If you've ever thought that in your mind, like, I'll never meet anyone who's as good a match for me as this person. That's the anxious attachment style. The avoidant is always spotting what's wrong. Always like seeing these little flaws in your partner. If you're constantly looking, yeah, I don't like this about her, or I don't like that about him, right? That's an avoidant characteristic, because it's allowing you to keep someone at a particular distance of never actually getting too close, because as a child, as you realized, when you got that close, you couldn't actually rely on that person. And so the avoidant patterns that can happen as an adult with an anxious person, they get both of their seemingly get both of their identity patterns solidified. And that's what the ego wants, is to say, you're right. This is true. And so the anxious, when they're with an anxious avoidant, when they're with an avoidant, the avoidant keeps pushing them away. And that lets the anxious person reinforce this idea that there is something wrong with them. That as an anxious person, my attachment style, this person keeps pushing me away, keeps spotting my flaws, keeps gaslighting me, or whatever it is. I can see that there's something wrong with me. That's contributing and confirming the need for my anxious attachment. And then the avoidant, right? The avoidant is so afraid of losing their freedom and their independence that the anxious person, who's trying to grab onto them all the time, wanting to spend all their free time and saying, you're the perfect person for me, that avoidant person is getting confirmation bias to the fact that people always want to take my freedom. People always want to clamp down on me and reinforce that belief pattern. And remember that the ego is trying to prove you right. The ego is trying to prove you right. And so these beliefs get reinforced, especially when people don't have the awareness. Awareness gives us choice. What you're doing right now is you're gaining awareness. Please don't be judging yourself. Don't be shaming yourself. If you're going, oh my gosh, I totally am an anxious attachment type person, amazing. Because it's not static. There is the opportunity, there is the possibility for you to change it, but you need the awareness first. And that's what I'm hoping you're getting today. And so I'm going to cover the fourth one. There's about 20 to 25% of people who have the anxious, and 20 to 25% of the people who have the avoidant. And so that last like 3 to 5% is really, really rare. It's disorganized. Disorganized attachment style is kind of a blend of anxious and avoidant, and often can be the result of really confusing, wounded childhoods, like sexual abuse or various things that can create a inner environment where it just doesn't make sense